I think knowing more gives you more freedom, but I can
Yeah.
also see how creatively perhaps you do something that might be unconventional, but once you start studying, you realize it's not as unconventional as you think. There is one thing leads to another, and there are so many possible paths. So I think actually studying can be liberating, but that also depends on the teacher and how restrictive that person is with you.
It's so lovely to meet you here on Zoom and to talk to you about your music.
Likewise, thank you for having messaged me.
No, it's a pleasure. I love your music videos that you have on Instagram, and this is where I discovered you. And I love your music, and I would love to know you as a pianist. Where did your music start? Where did the inspiration to play the piano?
Well, the inspiration to play the piano started, I think, long ago when I was like 15, but I think I've been pursuing it more so recently, probably since 2017. But yeah, I can't really say the original inspiration. I kind of just gravitated towards it through experiences, through life, having a keyboard, listening to classical music, and yeah, just kind of came about.
Okay, so at 15, did you then start with music lessons?
No, I actually never started with music lessons. I kind of taught myself. So I think those first years I didn't really have a proper like teacher until maybe like 2 years after. I studied with the teacher for like a year, but also I don't think that was like real education. And then from there, I had just other things that I wanted to do. I wasn't really trying to be a pianist, and I gravitated more towards like theater and film and things like that. And piano was something that I enjoyed doing. And yeah, until well, like in 2017, I was in Mexico City and I spent a lot of time alone and I had a keyboard there. And that's when I really started to learn more about the piano, started doing like little compositions. And so since then, it's kind of been a little more serious.
But do you come from a musical family? Is there somebody in your family that plays an instrument?
Well, they say that I have a great grandfather who played the piano. I think he was a doctor also. I don't know if that's the same person, but my parents weren't like musicians, but that's the only person I can think of. So, but they say that there are musicians like in the family.
In your family. But
Not
so
remembering.
what do you do this full time, or are you in another career?
Well, I would like to do this full time. I have a job, but this is more what I love to do, and not necessarily as a pianist, but more so as just trying to create music. So right now it has been with the piano, but I would like to explore like other instruments and things like that because yeah, there's just different instruments have different almost personalities. So, but this idea was with the piano, and that's how it was done. So.
Yeah. Well, it's tell me about this project of yours, because the one that I saw on Instagram where the piano is, it looks like the piano is on the beach and the sea is coming in, and it's beautiful, the visuals. How did you do
Thank
that?
you. Now, this video was a real mission, and I couldn't have done it without my close friends and their support. So I remember like more than a year ago, I want to say, even speaking with my cousin who he did the cinematography, just talking about things that would come to mind and ideas. And when you're talking about it, you don't think about just how difficult it's going to be to get it done, especially like independently, just like between us. And so originally, like earlier this year, we were going to different locations. We were at one point like in the mountains asking a piano store, like, how can we rent a piano and have you guys take it to these locations? And I think it was too much. So we ended up deciding to buy like a used piano. And that way I figured now we don't have to worry about, insurance or any damage that can be done to the piano. Like whatever happens to the piano, it's okay because it's for the project. But for the beach scene, it really was just asking permission from the state. And we had to wait a while. I wanted to shoot it because we were shooting around like May, June, and then we wanted to finish in July, I think. But we got backed up, then it was August, then it was September, and then, yeah, I think it was in September that we finally shot it. And a funny story at the beach is that the people that brought us the piano were very cool piano movers that we met early when we got the piano. They ended up being people that helped us move the piano everywhere that we shot. But so they had this van, and when we put it on the beach on the second day of shooting, they were backing up to take out the piano, and a wave just kind of went under the wheel, and the van ended up getting stuck on the beach.
Oh,
So while
no.
we were trying to set up, like the tide had gotten low, but then it started coming up again, and we figured, well, let's just try and shoot it. But there was this like stress, like happening throughout the shoot because we're like, man, if this tide goes up, what's gonna happen to this van? It was like calling tow trucks, and finally at night, there's like taking out this van from the sand, and the sand was like more than halfway above the wheel. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
You were worried about the piano, but it was actually not the piano, it was the truck in
Right.
the end.
We had so imagine like the piano attracts enough attention as it is, but now you have this like, huge van on the beach and everyone's asking like what's going on. And but luckily we were able to pull it off and the van got out safely and yeah.
But now the music, did you do the composition?
Yes.
Yeah. And was it something, how important is this for you to have the music and the visual together?
It was very important for me because the music is very personal. I don't want to get too much into detail because I think everyone that listens to it can form their own like interpretation of it or their own story. But it really is a piece of love. And the video originally was going to be more of like a narrative kind of video, kind of telling a story. But I think the scenario, like the set and how the story is moving through the music, kind of tells its own story. And there's a brief kind of vague story going on, like with the rock. But yeah, it's a very personal piece, and it just kind of came out. I felt like it had to happen. The video had to happen, and the inspiration from it comes from a previous piece. The video actually isn't on YouTube; it's on Vimeo, called Season, which was inspired by the same love. And it kind of just evolved into this bigger piece that just had to come out.
Amazing. So when you compose, do you then already know what you want the visual to be, or does that come afterwards?
Well, I think when you get to a certain stage of it, you do start imagining certain visuals and certain things like that naturally because music evokes, images. And that's kind of what was going on throughout the composition. For example, like that black scene, I think my cousin was saying, it's almost like you can imagine just like this darkness and this elegance of like a reflection in the water. And I was like, man, that does sound amazing. But how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
And we ended up that was its own mission too, that whole scene. Yeah.
But that's wonderful. Now you're saying about doing stuff with other instruments as well. What are these instruments that you have in mind?
I'm inspired by like doing like orchestral works also, but also more experimental stuff that isn't like, so maybe certain kind of horns like saxophones or also ideas where it's strings and sometimes involving the piano, sometimes not. But that's like further down. Like I have more ideas with the piano right now that I'm gonna explore. But
so you haven't had like formal training. Do you think that this in a way is also giving you a lot more freedom. So you just do it the way you feel, and there's no real restrictions for you.
Well, I think yes and no, because I am studying, and I think knowing more gives you more freedom. But I can
Yeah.
also see how creatively perhaps you do something that might be unconventional, but once you start studying, you realize it's not as unconventional as you think. There is a, one thing leads to another, and there are so many possible paths. So I think actually studying can be liberating, but that also depends on the teacher and how restrictive that person is with you. And so just having, like, it would be nice to receive, more formal training and things like that. But I'm very curious. So I think having studied helped a lot with this piece. For instance, what I've known helped, end certain parts or tie like a part to another and things like that. So it's probably more helpful to train than to just rely on creativity alone, I think.
And now, do you do concerts as well?
No, no. Also something I'd like to do down the line, if I am able to finish more compositions and maybe have more music to play, I would love to play for people.
So these are just these projects that you do that are like this. You do the music and the visuals, and then how can people see that? I mean, apart from on Instagram and or how do you promote this?
The video you saw is on YouTube, and that was promoted on Instagram. And the other video, Seasons, is on Vimeo. We wanted it to be on YouTube, but YouTube, they compressed your file, and we had a very dark scene in that video where it was practically nighttime. So it's very pixelated, and I think Vimeo has a better like
Oh,
compression.
I see. Mhm.
So I'll send you the link to that video. So that
Yeah.
video I think is more poetic in the sense where there is no um, you don't see me playing. It's just these images of like plants and leaves, reflections, and things like that. But I think through it, it also kind of tells a story, but it's very, very vague.
Okay. But yeah, please send it to me and I'll put it in the description of
Oh,
the
cool. Yeah,
interview. Yeah.
sure.
But now, what is it that inspires you to compose, and what inspires the music that you write?
Mm, I think just things that happen to one in life, and it's not something you think about. It kind of springs out just by listening and being at the piano. Usually, I'm probably practicing another piece by a composer, and I think just being near the piano, things kind of emerge, and also just reflecting upon certain things that evoke a feeling, um, past experiences, and that will bring about a sound as well. But never without like pushing for it. I think it does kind of just come out.
Mhm.
But it helps being at the piano, I would say.
And but now tell me, what are the wishes now for the future for you?
My wishes would be to continue to be able to make videos and to continue to be able to write music. But it's kind of it poses a challenge at this stage because it does cost to do these kind of like productions. But I think that what will come will be a little more independent. This one just felt like it had to be how it was, like these bigger scenes, like the one on the beach. And but I think the following videos will be more so like not so much a performance video, maybe something different.
Mm.
But I think because I had done seasons with this one, it's like maybe it's time to introduce like who's playing the piano. And now that that's there, we can continue and work on things that are more poetic in a sense, and not just like a performance video.
Yeah, well, I was so looking at that piano on the beach, and I was thinking, is this in some way a special effect? But it's amazing that you actually did it, and that it is there, that it's all real.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
was really nice to see that. I'm curious, like, what is your experience of the piece, like when you listen to it?
beautiful. But it's the visual and the music together, of course, makes you um, listen to it in a different way. I haven't heard it now without the piano, without the visual. But
Mm.
with the visual itself, it really it does something to the music as well, which doesn't mean that it's not on its own also beautiful. But as I say, I've only watched it and listened to it together. But what I will do now is
Yeah,
to listen and not watch. But yeah, the
no
image is
worries.
already now in my head. But yeah, it's fascinating.
No,
Um,
thank
yeah. No, I mean, obviously you have this talent also to see it visually. I think this is also very a great aspect of your work, is that you see these visuals and that you actually are able to create it that way. Um, and yeah, I would love to see how you do a concert, because I can just imagine that you can also use these visuals in a concert.
No, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've already talked about how cool like a certain set would be for the like if we did a concert. I think I'll hold on to that idea. But like what you were saying, I think it comes also from just coming from wanting to do films. And I think something I would like to do also is to compose for film. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
that with like the coming projects, it kind of gives me an opportunity to compose for those little like short films that would be the video for the music, and see where eventually what that can become. And then that way I can experiment also with strings, like I was saying, things like that. So we'll see. But I think that might be kind of where that comes from.
Well, I'm going to. I mean, I follow you, so I would love to see what you come up with next. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Pablo, and for talking about your music. And I'm wishing you really all the best, and that all your wishes come true, and that that you actually do the concerts, and you'll have to come to Vienna and do a concert
I would
here.
love to go to Vienna. No, but thank you so much for having invited me, Petra. Honestly, thank you.
It's a great pleasure, and have a wonderful afternoon.
You too, Petra. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.